Hey, what's up, Faith Warriors? Happy Thanksgiving, first and foremost. I hope you guys are really taking some time to pause and stop and reflect, maybe even spend some time with friends and family. Take a break from your norms and just think about the good things that we've had this year to be thankful for. I'm spending some time out here with my parents out here in Texas. Thought I would break away and share with you some thoughts that I've been thinking about, specifically endurance, the word that I've been thinking about and chewing on last few days. Endurance. Now, endurance is not something that we typically think of when it comes to Thanksgiving, unless you're talking about enduring from like one side of the buffet to the other side of the buffet, which is really kind of a powerful feat in itself if you think about that. But endurance comes down to like three different types of endurance. Like you have emotional endurance, physical endurance, spiritual endurance. So being a warrior, we're kind of like that semi-athletic role where I'm kind of making a living off my body in the sense of that an athlete would. So a soldier, we have to think about physical endurance quite often. For instance, I've got to run 2 miles at a 13-minute pace, which is my personal standard. I have to train to get there, and it takes physical endurance, and it takes me putting myself through sprints and endurance runs and everything else to get there, and I know how to get there, and sometimes I don't get there. And that's physical endurance. Along with that, you can have emotional endurance. That might be the endurance to really live life with somebody that's frustrating sometimes. For those of you that are in relationships, you know it's not always a total cakewalk. There's some times where you're gonna have to emotionally endure, and you're gonna have to be okay with learning how to forgive and move forward through that emotional endurance. And then you have another concept, spiritual endurance. And that's like, I'm going through some dark times in life, some hardships in life. I'm walking through the valley of the shadow of death, and yet I fear no evil because I know God is right there with me and He's leading me through something. And so that becomes the spiritual endurance, leaning on God to endure through some hardships. And I know endurance is not something that we typically think of in Thanksgiving, but I want to read this verse to you. And this is 1 Chronicles chapter 16, verse 34. It says, "Give thanks to the Lord, for He is good." Now that's the first half of the verse. I could stop there and unpack that all day, taking this all the way back to the Garden of Eden and just total Bible nerd out on this thing. But give thanks to the Lord, for He is good. His faithful love endures forever. I want to ask, do you ever stop and just thank God for His love? Like, God doesn't have to love humans. He created us. He wanted to love us. Our sinfulness gets in the way, and quite literally, our sinfulness separates sinful man and holy God, and they just cannot mix, and yet God's love endures. God's love endured for us so much that He sent His Son to the cross. And on the cross, Jesus endured immense amount of pain just to make a way for us to be right with God again, so that we could be in this loving relationship with our Holy Father. And that's endurance. And so no matter how many times we sin against God, no matter how many times we turn our back on God, no matter how many times we reject God in the way that we live our lives, God is right there to pick us up with open arms, like the prodigal son returning, and the father just standing there saying, "Get up, my son has returned." I'm thankful that God's love endures. I'm thankful that I don't have to earn His favor. I'm thankful that Jesus made a way for me to be in this relationship again with God. And that's what I'm thankful for this year. So whatever you're thankful for this year, go ahead and drop it in the comments. I'd love to celebrate those things with you guys this season. But for me, the reason for this season is God's love endures, and Jesus endured it all on the cross for me. Hope you guys have a great Thanksgiving, and I'll catch you guys right here next week on Warrior Faith.